Okay, this is what we're talking today. We're in a little bit more Chrysler stuff here. 3.7, 4.7, and 4.7 HO. Got it?
Got it.
Now you can see up here. You're going we're going to fire up here on our board. Yeah. Huh? Well, it's coming up. Okay, it's coming up. It's coming up. All right. Now look at this. The 3.7 is similar to the 4.7 and the high output variant, right? Okay, you might even say the 3.7 looks like a 4.7 that's had 2-cylinder chopped off the back end. You notice how a lot of them are doing that nowadays?
Yeah.
You like that? It's kind of like the old 4.3 Chevrolet looks like a 350 that's had 2-cylinder chopped off the back end. I mean, it's very similar. All right. But they got similarities. Now, pay attention. Your first question answer is coming up here. All of them are 90-degree V-type engines. They're all non-freewheeling, which means that they're going to bend valves if they jump out of time. If they spin out of time, if the cam and the crank come out of time, you're going to hit valves. That's just the way it is. Now, they're all also got timing chains instead of belts. In my opinion, any engine manufacturer that builds an engine with a timing belt that is not freewheeling
should be non-interference.
All right, can you guys come up with an interference? I mean, an engine. Who in the world? Who can you think of that builds an engine that when it's got a rubber timing belt on it and when it jumps time it bends valves?
That Lexus something that does bend valves.
That does.
The engine in my car, in my drift car.
Yeah, and your Mitsubishis.
Yeah.
Love to do that.
GT?
Yeah, and also those little Mitsubishi, those little Diamantes that's got the 4-cylinder engine in them, they'll bend a valve. I'll tell you something else. If you're driving a Kia, it's like an early 2000s Kia with that little motor in it, you best be changing that timing belt when it's supposed to be. There was somebody emailed me through my website, and they said they had a Kia that they still owed money on. And I can't remember what they owed. I could pull my website up. I actually posted it on the website. And they said, 100,000 miles came and went, or whatever the mileage was supposed to be, and they just kept driving. When those things jump time, they are built weak enough to where it snaps heads off the valves. And they typically jump while the head's going down the road. And those little pieces of those valves, those little heads of those valves bounce around in there, and they destroy the head, they destroy the block, they destroy the piston, and it's all over but the crying. And these people had an $8,000 repair bill looking at them if they decided to put an engine in his car. Now, we bought an engine for $1,200 and popped in one of those because it had jump time. The long and the short of it is anybody that does not change their timing belt is doing so at their own peril. There was a girl in here that had some kind of a little SUV. I can't even remember what in the Salem Hill it was. Small SUV. I don't think it was a Troop or a Isuzu. It was some kind of a small SUV. And she had it in here for an oil change. And you could hear the timing belt slapping the timing cover. I mean, the timing belt was flapping around, slapping the timing cover, and it never had a timing belt put on it. And I told that girl, I says, look, I'll get a timing belt, bring it back tomorrow, I'll have my guys put a timing belt on it, and that will save you from having a real expensive repair. Because if this one jumps time, you're going to have valves kissing pistons, and you're going to have the head pulled off. You're going to have a valve job done on it, and maybe even more damage than that. And so she was sort of, with all due respect, beautiful girl, but she was an airhead. She just didn't think to bring it back, right? Okay, about 3 or 4 months later, I saw her, and I said, she came in here to have brakes looked at or something, and she said, I should have listened to you and had y'all put my timing belt on there. It was only going to cost her like $40 to do that. She says, I was turning in at Walmart when it jumped time, and it cost $1,500 to get it back on the road. And she said, if I'd have listened to you instead of just not getting around to bringing it back, we would have not, had this problem. Anyway, freewheeling engine, that's the thing. Okay, proper crankshaft and camshaft time is critical to avoid piston and valve contact. So, another feature that's common to each engine is the use of a bed plate instead of main bearing caps. See that right there? Now, you remember when we had that 4.7 out, Sean? If you were going to look at the main bearings, you'd have to take the whole bottom of the engine off. See? And that's the thing on that. And a lot of engines nowadays have a bed plate. The 6-liter Ford Power Stroke has got a bed plate. And these engines here have got bed plates. Chrysler has sort of long been a bed plate lover. They love bed plates on their engines. Your little engines like they're in your PT Cruisers and your Neons and stuff, they got bed plates on them. Other similarities include aluminum cylinder heads with 2 valves per cylinder, chain-driven overhead camshafts, 1 on each side of the engine. Accessory drive, you know what that is? What's accessory drive? When I say accessory drive, what am I talking about?
Things on the serpentine.
Serpentine belt. What Ford calls that is, I'm going to get my other markers here, is FEAD. Front end accessory drive. Got it? Okay, now then, you guys know what this is, right? CHMSL. Seen that before?
Is it
You see it?
Chrysler?
Huh?
Is it Chrysler?
It's everybody. Chrysler has it. Chrysler has it. All cars and trucks have it. As a matter of fact, if you pop the fuse cover off of the GMC that we've got out there, this 99 GMC, you're going to see one of the fuses that says CHMSL. I've gone over this with you guys
Center,
before.
it's the center. It's high stoplight.
Bingo! Listen to that man. He pulled it up. Center high mount stoplight. When you see Chimsel, you're looking at center high mount stoplight. Now, why did I get away from bed plates on engines and get to that? I guess because of FEAD. All right, let me move on. Accessory drive systems are similar, which be the belt system with all the components mounted directly to the front cover, and that eliminates the need for brackets. That's a good idea. When we eliminate brackets, we do a good thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. The only exception is the power steering pump, which mounts directly to the left cylinder head. Okay, there's your tensioner assembly. You can see the picture. Consists of an idler pulley and a tensioning pulley. And the tensioner assembly must be removed first to access one of the front cover mounting bolts. Now, you guys know about this Jeep. Now, let me grab one of these belts. I'll be right back. It'll take me a second.
Got an 87 Nissan. I'm about to fix it.
Nissan what?
Brother.
Nissan what?
Nissan, not sure. It's got some kind of badass belts.
Is it a truck?
When you see, and I've talked about this before, when you see these shiny belts that look like that right there, brand new. This belt here has never been on a car. And there's a reason why it's never been on a car, and there's a reason why I kept it. It's a shiny belt. It's real slick right here. I'm not even sure that the company makes these belts anymore. But the other day, Zach Beck, that boy from Zion Chapel, he came here on his mama's Jeep. And it sounded like every bearing and every pulley on the front of that thing was about to come apart. It's whining something awful. So what do? The first thing you do is you jerk the belt off and you see if the noise is still there. We jerked the belt off, the noise wasn't there. It had one of these on it. Those shiny belts. It had it on there. All right. Okay, so it never fails. Right about this time, somebody's going to call me. But the phone can just keep on ringing. All right. Okay, the 3.7, 4.7, and 4.7 liter Chrysler engines all utilize a composite intake manifold. What is a composite intake manifold? Somebody let me in on that.
That would be like a polymer.
Bingo. It's sort of like a plastic with carbon fiber, sort of like the case on my Navy SEAL watch that I wear sometimes. All right. Okay, coil-on plug. Now, have we seen something that's not common to 3.7, 4.7, and HOs? Do they all have a bed plate? Are they all non-freewheeling timing drive?
Yes.
Are they all coil-on plug?
I don't think so.
All right. What have we seen so far?
The bed plate. They all got a bed plate.
We got bed plates. We know that's not the right answer. Do we know? Do they all have coil-on plug?
Yes. It says right there.
Okay. Do they all have non-freewheeling timing drive? So it's got to be a counter-rotating balance shaft. They don't all have one of those, right? Wouldn't that be the right answer for that? All right. Now then, they're lifted through the engine compartment. You got to be sure to use the right tool. See this? We did not have this special tool, so we had to come up with another way. Remember that? See that special tool, number 8347?
What is that?
And the long bolts. Remember how we had to put that chain on the front of it and all that, all that stuff? All right, when you pull it, you're supposed to use that tool. lift fixture, you got to remove the intake manifold and fuel rail before attaching the fixture to the engine. Let me tell you how they do it. At the dealership where I worked, whenever we were going to pull an engine out of one, the first thing we did was pull the upper intake manifold. The first thing we did. Because we had these plates that had a hook on them, and we would take and we drill them to fit a lot of different engines, and you bolt that plate to the flat place on the intake where the intake is, where after you pull the upper intake off, you bolt that thing good and solid with several bolts to that flat plate. You've got a perfect lifting eye to pull that motor out. Absolutely perfect.
Yeah,
and it's not hard typically to pull the
yeah.
upper intake off, huh?
It was dead in the center. No?
Yeah, it's perfect. That's the way we did it.
Remember that van that me and Lawrence worked on?
Right.
And the one we had to swap intakes. Are
Yeah.
the intake gaskets reusable?
Which van was it? Oh, you talking about that?
Caravan.
The one you had to put the motor in?
Yes, sir.
I don't think they are. I'd be afraid of that. If they're plastic with that silicone stuff,
Yeah.
now the only ones that are reusable are typically going to be metal. They have the rubber with them, but you know, if you're a belt and suspenders man and you don't want to go back in there, you need to throw an intake gasket on it anyway.
Yeah, but I mean, I'm not going to take it off if I don't have to.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. But anyway, a lot of them, you know, like the reusable pan gaskets are always a real stiff metal thing with this rubber on it. Those are reusable. All right. So anyway, if you got a manual transmission in a Jeep Liberty, you got to pull that out first. Got it? Manual transmission, why? It's gonna that shaft is gonna stab through the clutch all the way up in there, and you got to go too far to get it out of there. So you pull the tranny first, and I'm gonna tell you guys, when you pull the engine out of one, it just makes sense, particularly if it's front wheel drive, you know, whatever. It just makes sense to jerk the transmission first. It's easier to pull the motor out that way, and it's easier to put it back in that way. Pull the transmission out, get it out of the way, steam clean it, you know, put your crank, you know, a torque converter seal in it, put it over out of the way. Just get it the heck out of your way, and then you just unhook everything from the motor, and you just swing that thing right out there. Easy as pie. Now, one of the things that we always used to really get aggravated with, a lot of times when you're putting a motor back in, it's enough trouble to set it on the motor mounts, and it's even more trouble when you're having to swing it in there and line the transmission up. You know what I mean? I mean, for years we did that. And nowadays, a lot of the shops that I know about will pull the transmission first, and they'll do like you all did. They'll pull the transmission, and they'll pull the motor out. Now, it may be that you're going to go to work at a shop where that's a foreign thing to them, but it's just sensible to do it, particularly if you're trying to reseal everything, you know. But anyway, never mind. All right, so you're going to have a special tool, right? Okay, what's the next question here? Which of the sealing materials should be used when installing a bed plate during service on a 3.7-liter engine? All right. Well, the choices are anaerobic sealant, Mopar bed plate sealant. That almost sounds common.
Really?
Yeah. RTV sealant or any of the above, whatever. We'll see.
I'm going to say B.
All right. So let's. All right. Let me go right here. The 3.7 engine's got differences. It's an even fired engine, which means that each cylinder is fired at 120-degree intervals. It's difficult to do that on a V6 if you don't have the crankshaft journals offset a little bit, right? Different from odd-fired V6s such as the 3.9 used previously on Dodge trucks. Ooh, did you know that the 3.9 was an odd-fired engine? Firing events were not 120 degrees apart.
So 120 degrees apart is the best.
That's nice and even. You see?
That's why like most V8s are so stay still.
Yeah.
It runs, right?
Yeah. And the ones that are odd fire ones have a tendency to idle a little rough. Okay, the even firing is made possible using a splayed crankshaft, and that allows the cylinder to be fired over 120 degrees. 3.7, look at that. You see the firing order on the 3.7? 165432. What General Motors engine has that for a firing order? V6.
4.3.
4.3. 165432. How did you know that? You guessed.
Yes.
All right, well, at least you're honest. The 3.7's upper main bearings are the same as the base 4.7. You remember what I told you? What's the firing order on the 350 out here, Brandon? Top of your head. Come on. What is it? You've done that enough time. What is it? 350 Chevy. Somebody give me the firing order.
1.6.
Huh?
1.6. No.
You know it's going to start with 1.
I know that.
Now, V8.
Ain't it?
Let him think.
Ain't it 1865432?
No, 1843657 Remember what it is on a Mustang. 1372654 And on the Crown Victoria with the 4.6 in it and all that stuff, you know. 1.6. All right, what it is on an old Ford 302 is 1542637 There's a pop test on this at the end of the session. You got to remember that. You going to do it? Okay. Now, what about it? What is it on the Pontiac out here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
And on the like Chelsea, what is it on the Sable? 14, 25, 36. All you got to do is count from the front of the engine back. 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6. You count the rods all the way back. 1, 4, 14, 25, 36. That's pretty smooth, ain't it? Okay, anyway, I'm wasting time here. What? Did you say something? All right. I heard that. All right. The 3.7's upper main bearings are the same as the base 4.7's, but the lower main bearings are unique. Unlike the 4.7, they fit the select fit markings for the 3.7's main bearings are on the target wheel for the crank position sensor. The target wheel for the crank position sensor. See that target wheel? See that toothed wheel? It says SSUT. See that? Main bearing select fit markings are stamped on the crank position sensor target wheel. Now think about what I'm telling you here. That is they're unique to the 3.7. You may need to know this one day. Right? Everybody in here may need to know this one day. You will not see this just anywhere and everywhere. The floating wrist pin. What's a floating wrist pin? Somebody tell me what a floating wrist pin is.
Floating wrist pins.
Is this a floating wrist pin?
Is it pressed in?
Yes. It ain't floating.
If it's got snap rings, it's floating.
If it's got snap rings, it's floating. If you can warm the piston up in some hot water and push it in with your fingers, it's a floater. This one here, if you was to bust that piston off of there, this thing would be a part of that rod. I mean, it's just real hard to get it out of that rod, and you got to have special tools to press that darn thing out of there. This is not a floating wrist pin. All right, you got that. All right, now then. Okay, 3.7's got a counter rotating balance shaft to reduce noise. See, the other ones don't have that. And vibration from engine. 2 knock sensors loaded under the intake manifold. I was told by a Chrysler instructor that the frequency of an engine knock is 5,555 hertz. Huh? Yeah, it's pretty bad. And whenever it hears that way, if it knows what the hertz is, it can separate that from engine knocks. I mean, from knocks that aren't engine knocks. Because what does it do when it hears a knock? Does anybody know?
It retards time.
Retards timing a little, because when you retard timing a little bit, you can do away with a knock. You knew that, didn't you, Archie? Huh? He does now. The knock sensor causes it retarded timing, right? Whenever it hears a knock, it's going to retard the timing because it doesn't like knocks. Knocks are not good. They're not our friend. Okay. Another new item found on the 3.7, and this was new 10 years ago. Actually, this is an old handout. Is the longer, narrower corporate oil filter isolated stamped steel cylinder head covers, which are different from the magnesium cylinder head covers on 4.7. You remember the ones that you put on without the gaskets that leaked all everywhere? Oh, that's embarrassing. I don't even want to talk about that. But whatever.
Hey, you're on camera now.
If I can get a look out of Brandon like that, I feel like I've done something. He gives me that little bad look. Usually he tries to be a poker face where you can't tell what he's thinking. But anyway, the stamped steel. What's stamped steel? What engine do we have out here that's got a stamped steel valve cover on it?
350.
The 350 stamped steel. It's just a piece of steel that's stamped into shape. Now the other one is molded and cast.
Judy sent you on.
Oh, great. I've got a Identifix March update. Free instructor and student accounts. Yay. Hey, you need that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Well, I already deleted the email now, so it's too late. All right. Consult the... oh, here we go. Look at this. Exhaust valves are similar to the ones used in a 4.7 HO motor, and you ought to note that the intake and exhaust valve springs for the 3.7 have different part numbers that are not interchangeable. Okay? The throttle position sensor is new. It was new when this handout came out, 10 years ago. It's a Hall effect type design, and the wiring is different from variable resistor type. Listen to that. Did you know that this engine's got a Hall effect throttle position sensor? Basically, it's a digital. It's digital instead of having an analog thing. It's basically going to be sort of like quantum mechanics, I guess. It'd be interesting to take an engine, and we got some here that we can look at that on. I believe I can probably come out and scope it, and let's see what that looks like. See it? It's basically a percentage thing, it's kind of like stair steps, I guess. I don't know. We'll have to look at that. Remember the consultant service information for 3.7 component descriptions, and don't use parts for another engine, no matter how similar they appear to be. Okay, you know, a lot of times you'll feel like if the wires will plug in, it'll work. You ever have that idea? Wrong. I can take one of the things that's kind of funny. David B. You know, like, yeah, he used to drink coffee out of a soup mug and stir it with a battery cable bolt. You know, he tried to steal the steering column out of my Ranger. He put the whole thing in his truck, and you know what happened? His was a 99, it's a 98. His wipers wouldn't work.
That's the only reason why I brought it back.
No, you brought it back because I told him I was going to put a smackdown on him if he didn't come make him swap him back out.
How'd you figure it out?
Because he had, I wound up without tilt wheel. Wasn't hard to figure out. He didn't think I was smart enough to catch that. But I got the line sheet on the truck, and I said, my truck is supposed to have tilt wheel. I bet yours has it now, and mine don't. You had the steering column off of that thing last week. See, it was Thursday afternoon. He said, I got the steering column, put it back on Monday morning, and all that. And I didn't even know he left it. See what I'm saying? So Monday morning, he put it back on there, but it was the wrong one. And then he said, well, I wonder why my wipers wouldn't work. Well, it was a different switch. Inside, plug right in, look just right the same, and all that kind of stuff. All right. All right, now then, here we go. Models. Grand Cherokee's got a more powerful version of the 4.7 available. High output. Develops 270 horsepower and 330 foot-pound of torque. And that's a significant increase. Look at that. See? Then you got 4.7. See, 270 is 35 more horsepower. And how much more torque? 35. 35 foot-pounds more torque.
I got no email.
It starts at, I know what that is. Get out of there.
Come on, man.
All right. That throws, let's see, starts with a base 4.7. Hadn't changed very much. You guys did a 4.7 so that you can identify with this, right? You see some of this stuff here. The crankshaft's forged steel, different from a cast iron crank. See that? That's the high output. Remember this. High output 4.7 has got a forged steel crankshaft. Can you remember that?
You know why? Probably because it's lighter.
Very cool. Unique to the HO, can't be used in any other motor. Got a crank damper that's different from the one on the 4.7. You just remember what your crank damper looked like on your 4.7? Looked different from this, didn't it?
They don't have
It wasn't too far off, but I mean there are a few differences.
Yeah.
But it didn't seem to be too far.
It looked a
off.
little deeper to me. But I tell you what, Sean, you might be surprised. Sean, a lot of stuff that you think would get past Sean doesn't. You know, he catches stuff a lot of times.
that one over there it does.
Yeah. Well, he's tall enough to where nothing should go over his head, but some things to. All right, the main bearings.
If it ain't Lisa, it goes over his head.
The main bearings are designed specifically for the high output engine and are not interchangeable with the ones on the standard 4.7.
I never have
Did you pick up on that? The main bearings will not work on the standard 4.7. Keep watching your questions now, okay? Got select fit markings for the main bearings. They're on the target wheel for the crank position sensor similar to the 4.7. The HO's got pistons that are dome shaped. See the dome shaped piston, right? Got it? Bumps the compression ratio up to 9.7 to 1, which is reasonably, if you depends on what you call low. They had dish pistons on some of the other. Anyway, a floating wrist pin. See the floating wrist pin? Now there, see, he's talking about a snap ring. See that snap
Both
ring?
of them have floating wristbands?
That
No.
one there. Aha! The 4.7 base 4.7 has got press fit wrist pins. The high output 4.7 has got floating wrist pins. Now this is good stuff right here. See? All right, the HO engine's got unique cylinder heads that use a different shape for combustion chambers. Well, obviously, you're going to do that for high output.
Which of the following my 2002 vehicles do not have?
What?
It's number 5.
Which of the following model year, MY's model year, Betty Boy? 2002 does not have the 4.7 engine as available equipment. Jeep Liberty, Dodge Durango, Grand Cherokee, or Dodge Ram. Now, you think a Jeep Liberty is going to have a 4.7 in it? I'm sorry, but it ain't, okay? All right. Could you imagine stuffing that? Now, they did make this thing called a Cyclone.
Yeah, it's got a V10 in it.
It's got two.
Two?
Yeah,
What?
two Hemis.
Cyclone.
What do you mean two Hemis?
It's got a Hemi in the front and a Hemi in the back.
Huh?
And it's four-wheel steering and four-wheel drive.
I want that.
So it's got two engines in it.
Two engines. Hemi in the front, Hemi in the back.
A V8?
Hemis, yeah, big old Hemis.
The real Hammond.
And and you can actually turn the wheels. You know, Chrysler made it as sort of a concept vehicle. Cool as all get out.
So did they sell it?
It was a stud and a monster.
Did they sell it?
I don't know. I don't think they just made a very, very few of them or whatever. But they had an article about it in one of the magazines, and you can turn the wheels and just go around and around them. That's why they call it a cyclone, because it's got four-wheel steering. Or you can go straight, whichever, you know. All right. Well, that'd just throw you slam out of that thing if you spun it too fast, wouldn't you?
That'd be pretty fun.
All right. Okay. Unique cylinder heads that use a different shape. Look that up. Jeep. Look up Jeep Cyclone. See what you see. The lobes on the high outputs camshafts have profiles designed for increased performance. They cannot be used on the 4.7. Now, tell me this, y'all. What happens when you put high performance camshafts in a vehicle? What happens to the engine vacuum?
It goes down.
It goes down, and typically the engine idles a little rougher. You know.
Yes.
If you
I
don't.
It's
know
always
you
been
got
like that, huh?
Sometimes with putting them higher performance, oversized cams or whatnot on there, you got to keep that sitting there and giving it gas and whatnot, but keep it running while idling, or sometimes it will die.
Yeah.
No, that's because it's not done right.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you something else you can't have. You cannot put aggressively ground camshafts in an engine with a map sensor, because it'll run rich at idle. You got to put a mass airflow on it. All right. You see that cyclone?
Mm-hmm.
What is that? What did it show you? What can you tell me about it from what you're seeing?
I'm gonna tell you. It's gonna come on YouTube.
You can watch it on YouTube.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. All right. Another characteristic of the 4.7's high output motor, unique PCM calibration. Well, that's a no-brainer. And you're supposed to use premium fuel. You use premium fuel because of the higher compression, right?
They did market these things.
Huh?
They did market them.
Yeah. How much they cost?
I don't know.
That was a stud, wasn't it? Two Hemis in one vehicle, one in the back and one in the front.
And it does make a cyclone.
Yep. Spins around and around, don't
That's
it?
what they're doing.
Yep. Well, I told you.
Heck yeah.
What other instructor will let you watch YouTube of a car spinning around while you're in the class? Okay, there are two other important items that make the HO different from the base 4.7. Make sure that you look at everything. Okay, now look at here. Time and drive,
That wasn't
3.7.
the right one.
Huh? The time and drive components are laid out like the 4.7, 4.7. They look familiar to you guys? Y'all seen this before?
It
Right?
looks like a truck.
Yeah? Yeah, it looks like a Jeep.
Yeah.
A truck.
All right. All right, go say now you're going to apply that. Now look at here. The front cover has got the water pump bolted to it, but that's not necessary to remove the water pump bolts to get the cover off. You got that? You don't have to pull the water pump off first. You can leave the cover on there, the water pump on there. Y'all pulled the water pump off, didn't you? You did not need to do that. Wasn't necessary, right?
Idiots.
All right. Oh, come on. He done picked up Wes. Wes uses the word idiot all the time, and now...
I did it for educational purposes.
Incidentally,
Educational purpose.
your English teacher says, it made me just so ill that he wasn't coming to class that I just felt bad and I had to go home early.
No, she did.
Yeah, she said so. Wednesday, yes, she did. Yesterday, she went home early.
Oh, is that why she went in there?
Yeah, because. But anyway, you need to make sure that you don't miss that
I got it
class.
tomorrow.
You better get caught up. You better not. The front cover's got the water pump bolted to it, but you don't want to pull it off. Right. The primary timing chain is driven off the crank. Turns the idler sprocket. Spring-loaded tensioner for the primary chain keeps it tight. It's important to keep it tight. You know why? If you don't keep it tight, the valve timing gets late and you lose power. Just about everything you see nowadays is going to have a tensioner that's going to keep that timing chain tight. In the olden days, when that timing chain got loose, the vacuum would get low. And one time I bought this. I was going to put an engine in a pickup truck, and this boy had an old. He came from South Carolina over there to Texas, and he had a turn that volume down. And he had a Ford with a 390 in it. And I was going to build that 390 and drop it in a truck that used to have a 360 in it. And so he says, well, they wouldn't let him drive it when he came to Texas because he didn't have a title for it. So he had to park it in his garage. And I bought it from him for $25, bought the whole car. But before I bought it from him, I revved it up. I fired it up and I revved it up. Boom, boom, boom. And it revved up and sounded real good. When I was taking it apart, the timing chain was so loose on that thing that I could literally take the timing chain off with my fingers. It would not. It's a wonder it didn't jump time and cause all kinds of issues, you know. And, anyway, so, all right, shut it down, boys. Party's over. Secondary chain tensioners are hydraulically operated. Now, this is a common thing, you guys. Hydraulically operated using engine oil pressure. And they're identical to the ones on 4.7. Now, that's really common on a lot of engines. See that hydraulic tensioner? You see the hydraulic tensioner right there. You're going to see that on lots of engines, right? 3.7 uses hydraulic tensioners for secondary timing chains. And the 3.7's counter-rotating balance shaft is usually located in the block, driven by an idler gear. And that's figure 19 right there. See that? See that counter-rotating balance shaft right there? I mean, and there's another tensioner there. See, there's your left tensioner. That other one's your right tensioner. See how they're marked L and R? They don't want you putting them on there backwards. All right. So, since the use of a balance shaft is maybe new to you, we're going to look at how you remove and install it. All right. Make sure the engine's at TDC. What's top dead center? Who knows what top dead center is? Somebody tell me. Huh? All right.
I'm not going to tell y'all that.
You know, though.
I know that.
What's top dead center?
Where?
Huh? Chelsea knows because she dealt with top dead center on that Ford.
Why do you call me out like that, Richard?
Huh? You know, don't you? You know what
I know,
TDC
but
is.
I don't want to talk. Leave me alone.
Crankshaft's in the middle and the top. Piston, in the center and on the top. Bottom dead center is on the bottom and the center.
Yeah.
In other words, whenever you get your crank, your main's here, and your connecting rod is directly, and of course your connecting rod got your piston hooked to it. Right in the middle on the top. That's top dead center. Cylinder number 1, right? All right. So, on the crank damper, when you line it up, see the mark? See the mark right there. TDC mark right there. Now, when I turn that TDC mark around and I line that up, what do I know? What is the one thing that I know? There are 2 cylinders that are at top dead center.
Oh, yeah.
Okay? So, I know that number 1 and its companion are both at top dead center. One of those cylinders is on compression, the other one is on exhaust, but I don't know which is which. There's no way I can know by just lining that mark up.
Unless you line the cans up in it.
Yeah. Now, that being said, when I'm going to check and see, let's say that you're working on it and somebody says, I'm thinking this engine may have jumped time, but I need to find out. A lot of times you'd be surprised when you go out there, you mean how many times you get thrown a ticket for a no start, and the first thing you're going to try to do is you're going to try to determine if it's got a timing belt, you're going to try to determine if it's jump time. Because sometimes you can listen to the way it sounds when it spins over. If it spins over and it sounds like it's only got compression on like one cylinder or something like that, then you got a jump time situation. But how are we going to make doggone sure? Sometimes you'll have one that's got these, what we used to have sometimes. Let me ask you this. Let's say I walk out here and I've got something like a Ford Contour or a Mazda 626 and I spin it over because it came in on a hook. It came in from a used car lot. They said this thing was starting just fine. Now it won't start. You go out there and you spin it over. What should you hear? No, you should hear if it's spinning over and everything's like it ought to be. You should hear one, right? So that means every one is a squeeze in compression. But what if you hear it go one? What do you know then? One of those cylinders ain't squeezing air. If you listen to it spin, you can tell one of them ain't squeezing air. Sometimes you'll hear one misfiring. And then you'll hear them switch it off. And then you'll spin it over. You'll hear them spin it over to start it up. When it's spinning over to start it up, instantly, one of those cylinders don't have compression, and that's why it's missing. I'm telling you from across the parking lot. You can know that. You got that?
Does it have compression?
Does not have compression if it's going
Only if the time belt jump.
Yeah. No. Now, if you're hearing only one of them with compression, if it goes then your timing belts jump. But let's say on this Ford Contour, this Mazda 626. These are new cars with them little skinny piston rings on them that have almost no, drag on the cylinder walls.
Yeah.
All right. This thing, when you spin it over, it goes, yeah.
Ain't got no compression.
No compression. Okay? I've seen these. They come from the used car lot. Or maybe they come off of our car lot. All right? So what happens is, I get these guys. Let's see, what do we have here? Oh, yeah. But anyway, this is for Wes. Sorry about this. Accumulator. Yeah, he charged it out and he's going to credit it. Okay. And that was accredited.
Go ahead and get accumulator.
Well, she's not going to get an accumulator because she didn't need an accumulator. She needed the liquid line. Okay. And you got the exhaust gasket. There you go. Sorry about that. But anyway, so what if I check this car I'm talking about and I don't have any, I check this car I'm talking about and I've got absolutely no compression But I've also got, what in the world is that? You guys listening?
Yeah, listen,
It's in time,
it's in time.
but I've got no compression. And how do I know it's in time? I line up, I'm going to do whatever I have to gain access to the timing marks on the camshafts. Before I even look at the crankshaft, I ain't even paying no mind to the crankshaft yet. You hear me? I'm going to line up the cam marks.
Yeah, I know that.
Line the cam marks up first. You know why you're going to do that first? Because every time those cam marks are lined up on a normal engine, there are exceptions, and I'll let you in on that later. Most every engine, with the exception of one that I know about, it lines up every single time the cam marks line up, the crank lines up.
Not a Nissan.
Now, there are some engines that have secondary gears behind there, and you got to turn the camshaft 4 turns before the crank lines up. Huh.
Like Toyota.
Well, no, they're going to line up every. I mean, the camshaft. If what you see is no, I'm not. You know what you're thinking about. Not those, but I mean, every time you line up, every other time the timing mark comes around on the
every
crank,
other time.
it's lined up. The fact is, okay. Now, what's going on with my Contour or my, Mazda 626?
What did they line up?
They lined up. They were in time, but they had no compression whatsoever. Wouldn't start.
Are the valves broke off?
No, nothing wrong with the engine internally, except they started it cold so many times they washed down the cylinder walls. And on these newer engines, they don't have a lot of drag on the rings. You lose all your compression when you wash the cylinder walls down. So what did I do? I pulled all the plugs out. I got my oil squirt can. I squirted a couple of tablespoons of oil in each cylinder, spun it over, started getting compression, boom, fired up, smoke went out in the back, and we're in Fat City. And you tell the people at the used car lot, stop moving this thing around the lot and cranking it up, shutting it off, cranking it up, shutting it off. That's the worst thing that they can do to the used car people. And they do it with a lot of new cars on new car lots. They'll crank that thing up and move it over here. They'll crank it up and move it over here. Crank it up, move it up. They're already building sludge in there because you're making water. You're not actually purging enough of it out with the PCV system, and then all sludge, all steam, and the water starts mixing together, and you start making all kinds of sludge on the inside of that motor. That is bad, Brandon. Don't do that, okay?
Stop thinking about Lisa, boy.
Huh? But anyway, so now moving on here. All right, don't try to remove the drive gear or the thrust plate from the balance shaft because they're all services and assemblies. If you take them off, you can't put them back on. Right? There you go. Now, what else are we looking at? Technician A says the balance shaft is directly driven by the crankshaft sprocket. Is that right?
Sure.
I gave you the answer. Technician B says balance shaft driven by the gear on the back of the outer sprocket. Who's right about that? Don't you remember I said there's an idler gear?
B.
It's not driven directly by the... Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did. Right here. Right there it is. See that? What does that say on figure 19? See it? The idler gear is meshed with the balance shaft's drive gear, so it's not driven directly off of there. You know, I asked him for a copy of page 1 of that contract about a month ago.
I didn't know. I'll get
Yeah,
it.
give it to me. I need to see it because I never saw it ever.
Okay.
And I need to. And when I asked him about it, he said that you were going to take care of that for me.
He didn't tell me.
Yeah, that's what he did. He told me that. But anyway, I need to. I mean, next time you come, I need to get a copy of that. Because I mean, if I'm going to be held to it, I need to know what it says. And I never even saw it the first time when that guy came. But anyway, all right. Let me see here. Let me see. We need to make sure the engine is top dead center. Balance shaft remover and installer. There's a tool for that. Essential special tool number 8641. Tool supports the weight of the balance shaft during removal and installation and helps guide it through its bearings. Right?
So it's number 7 is blue.
Brandon, go grab him dirty rags that's back there on the floor and make sure he takes them with him. The ones that are back there where we had to mop up all that oil and Archie spilled. No, you stay there. Archie, go get those rags up. Do it now. Hurry. While Todd is still here. Yeah. Yeah. That's all right. We're not going to leave you too far behind. You know.
So what was number 6?
Well, it's not driven directly by the crank. It's driven through an idler gear.
Okay, so 6 is B.
Yeah, 6 is going to be a B. All right, number 7. Installing the camshaft sprockets on a 3.7 involves rotating the camshaft slightly to line up the sprocket. What should be used for that? Should you use a wide mouth adjustable pliers?
Yep.
Essential special service tool 8641. vice grip pliers, or essential special service tool 8428. All right,
I use a pair of
all right, now look at this. Look at the timing mark on the balance shaft. Let's look into that right quick. See that? See the timing mark on the balance shaft? As long as you've been exposed to this, you're probably going to have a better chance of remembering whenever it comes up. All right, you got a new camshaft wrench. Oh, my goodness, look here. Essential special tool 8428 is used to rotate the camshaft slightly when installing the cam sprocket. You got that? All right. So you got to make sure the balance shaft is timed the right way, and you got to check the position with the timing mark. All right, where's your special tool? You see it? Is that it right there?
Yeah.
That's your tool, isn't it? All right. Make sure the balance shaft's timed. Check the position of the timing mark with the timing drive system assembled. Make sure that the engine is at TDC. Hey, what did you guys learn when you put that 4.7 back together over there? It was really important. You remember how you had all the timing change stuff on there, and then you found out the slots in the cam gear were not the same as the one that came off the engine?
Yeah. There's two different types of cam sets.
Yeah,
Or-
the little wheel with the windows in it that drives it. And did you know, I knew of a guy one time, they brought this vehicle, and you may see this. They brought this vehicle, this friend of my shop, they had the same engine you're talking about. Would not start. No, pop, backfire, and do all kinds of crazy stuff like that. Did you get all the rags?
Oh, I left fuel on the floor. I did it on purpose.
All right. Okay, well, that's it. He's just being real, whatever. Anyway, so what he found out was he found out that, and how would you determine this? If they brought the thing to you on the hook, and they said, we put an engine in this and we've been working on it 6 months trying to get it to start, and we don't have any of the old parts, but it won't start. Ooh, this is bad, isn't it? But it had the wrong dadgum cup on that cam gear with the wrong.
How long did it take you to find out?
He worked on it for about most of a day before he finally figured out what was going on. I don't remember how he came to the conclusion.
That's bullcrap.
But the guy that I'm talking about is really, really sharp. And the shop, and it came to a guy that was another shop that he works in conjunction with, But anyway, make sure that setting the proper base timing on it is critical to avoid damage to pistons. You get them a little out of time, you done bent some valve.
Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah. Okay. Now 8. Which of the following components are the same on 4.7 and 4.7 HO? Okay. Cylinder heads, spark plugs, crankshaft damper, accessory drive belt tensioner.
Don't know.
I'm gonna guess D, since it would seem like the least harmful thing. Wait,
Probably spark.
The least high output related part, right? Don't you think it's probably going to be a D? Anybody know?
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Now then, let's see if we can find these last two. In an even fired V6 engine, such as the 3.7, cylinders are fired what?
Hey.
Every 120 degrees. All right. Look at this. Look at this. Look at B. Oh, this is a classic answer on B. When the cylinder reaches TDC on the exhaust stroke. Duh. All right. When the 3.7 liter engine is properly timed, the timing mark on the blank should be at 12 o'clock position, and the timing mark on the blank is at the 6 o'clock position. The first blank being, would it be camshaft damper and idler gear? Idler gear, sprocket, left camshaft sprockets, balance drive. Hey guys, we got to find that one. We actually got to find that. See this? Oh, what am I seeing here? Figure 24. Look at the caption. The timing mark on the balance shaft should be at 6 o'clock when the mark on the idler gear is at 12 o'clock. Wasn't this a really fun test? If you work your way through one of these things good. Now, I'll tell you what I could do. What I could have done. I could have just printed this handout and handed it out, but you wouldn't have learned as much as you did when we
That's
went
not
over
the
here.
same. No, hold on. That's not the same.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Well, what is it?
That's not the same answer. Same.
On a 3.7 engine, the timing mark on the idler sprocket and camshaft balance drive gear. No? Idler gear, camshaft sprocket. No?
Left camshaft sprocket and idler sprocket.
I'll sprocket.
let's see.
All right, when the 3.7 is properly timed, let's go down here where we were. Timing drive, right? Okay, what do we see in here? You see it anywhere?
No, it's 24. Way on down.
Way on down. Well, let's see what it says. Let's go down to figure 24.
Right there.
All right. The timing mark on the balance shaft should be at 6 o'clock when the mark on the idler gear is at 12 o'clock.
Well, it doesn't say anything about it.
Balance shaft,
It's the same.
huh?
See, it's wrong. It says the cam sprocket should be at 12 o'clock or the balance.
Well, look at the right. Look at the right.
Oh, okay. I was looking at the wrong
Figure 26. I'm
They
sorry.
said
I may have
mark-
directed you the wrong one.
marks on camshaft sprocket should be at 12 when the camshaft.
You see it? That help you?
So it is, see there.
That's a C in it. Right. Okay, so we did get that. Everybody done?
Sure. So this is up on the before I got to go.